Julius Thedford. Played at Cordova, played at Whitehaven. He played last season at Western Kentucky. Now he's coming home to be a Memphis Tiger. Welcome home. Welcome home.
No, that's good
Julius
stuff.
Thedford.
Dude, I love having a Memphis kid on the team. I just do. That's actually going to be a contributor, right?
No, it's a real player.
Yeah, for sure. Like, that's exciting. We haven't had that as much, in recent memory. So I'm fired up about this.
This is among the reasons I am willing to deal with all of the chaos that NIL and transfer portal has created, because I like these stories.
Yeah.
This is a nice story. When I'm ever trying to convince somebody that the transfer portal is not the devil, these are the types of stories I land on and tell. Stop thinking about college basketball players and college football players, whether you're a Memphis basketball fan or a Tennessee football fan. Stop thinking about them as commodities, as things that you own. You hear this all the time. It's weird. Even from people who have jobs like me, it's weird. They'll say things like, well, I just don't like that a kid can go to a mid-major, they can invest in him, develop him, and then he can just leave for nothing. You don't own him. Of course he can leave for nothing. Just like any other student at any other school can leave for nothing. What are you talking about? Like, you owe us if you're going to take this you don't own this person. What are you talking about? People say this stuff all the time. I promise you there's somebody right now who's a Western Kentucky fan, and this is what they're saying. The big schools didn't even want this kid a year ago. He's coming out of high school. Nobody wanted him, but we took him. We developed him. We turned him into an all-conference type player. And now, like, the bigger schools can just come by him. That's wrong. I say it's right. I say it's awesome. Think about this from Julius Thedford's perspective. Here's a young man, grew up in the Memphis area, played high school basketball at Whitehaven, played high school basketball at Cordova. I don't know this young man. I've never talked to him. I bet you it was not his dream to play at Western Kentucky. I bet you he didn't grow up wanting to be a hill topper, okay? Because I can't imagine anybody outside of probably specifically the western part of Kentucky growing up wanting to play basketball at Western Kentucky. Not to diminish the program. If my kids were good enough to play a sport at Western Kentucky on scholarship, that would be amazing, right? Not to diminish the program. I'm just saying, when you're a basketball player growing up in Memphis, you probably don't grow up wanting to be a hill topper. What do you think you grew up wanting to be?
Probably a Memphis Tiger.
Or a Duke Blue Devil.
Yeah,
or
sure,
a Kansas
fair.
Jayhawk. Or maybe a Tennessee Vol or an Arkansas Razorback. I don't know.
Yep.
But it's definitely not a hill topper, and it is probably a Tiger.
Well, it was cool. I saw somebody asked him, what went into the decision to transfer to Memphis, and his response, he posted a picture of him as a kid with Penny Hardaway.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine you're Julius Thedford. You're growing up in the Memphis area. You got one of your prized pictures from your childhood of you and the Memphis coach. All right. You, have been watching Memphis basketball for as long as you can remember, all right? You remember Joe Jackson, and you remember Will Barton, and whatever you remember, you remember. And you're coming out of high school, and you're playing in a grassroots tournament, and maybe Penny Hardaway walks in one day. Maybe he doesn't. When he does, he's not there to see you. Maybe he is, but he doesn't prioritize you. You keep waiting for a text message to come. It doesn't. You keep asking your high school coach, hey, has anybody reached out? What about Memphis? What about Memphis? We heard from Memphis? Nah, doesn't sound like that's, they just signed Tyrese Hunter out of the transfer portal and PJ Haggerty out of the transfer portal. They're not really looking for a high school guard ranked where you're ranked. Sorry, buddy. I know it was your dream to be a Tiger, but sounds like your best option right now at a high school, you want to go be a hill topper, play at Western Kentucky. All right, hey, it's not my dream. I want to go to Memphis or Kentucky or something like that. But Western Kentucky, let's go. Then you go there, and as a freshman, you average 12.4 points, 3.8 rebounds, shoot 37% from three, 6'4" guard, tough, can guard your position. Only played in 18 games, suffered a knee injury back in January, ended his season. But you do enough to make the same man who you were hoping and praying would come even look at you a year ago, 2 years ago. You do enough in 18 games at Western Kentucky where that man picks up the phone and offers you, probably for a decent amount of money, if you want to come home and be a Memphis Tiger, the thing you always wanted to be. You get to come home and experience that dream. In a different era of college basketball, this might not ever happen.
Right.
You go to Western Kentucky, you have this exact same season. Maybe Memphis is like, man, if we could have him and he could be on our team next year, we'd do it. But transfers have to sit out a year, and I can't afford to bring him here and sit him out a year. I don't even know if I'll be here 2 years from now. So we'll just pass on that. I got to get somebody that can help me right now. In a different era of college basketball, this might never happen. So you tell me how that's a terrible story. You tell me how that is something we should look at with disgust. I told the same story about Donovan Dent. He's from Southern California. I bet you, just like Julius grew up wanting to be a Tiger, Donovan grew up wanting to be a UCLA Bruin on some level. Coming out of high school, they wouldn't recruit him. Best offer he got was New Mexico.
Yep.
Went to New Mexico, played 3 years there. This season, Mountain West Conference Player of the Year. Guess who called? UCLA. Hey, man, maybe we should have got you 3 years ago. That's on us. But we want you now. How about come home, play for the Bruins for $3 million? People looked at that story and were like, I can't believe this. Right. I looked at that story and I was like, that's awesome. That young man at first thought his dream wasn't going to come true, but kept working and then watched his dream come true. That's not a story I find disgusting. That's a story I want to tell my kids. Hey, things aren't always going to go as you want them to go. Things will not always go as planned. Keep working. You never know where it'll take you. Maybe your dream was to play at Memphis coming out of high school in Memphis, but at that point, Memphis didn't have any interest in you. So go somewhere where people have interest in you. Keep working. Bet on yourself. Prove people wrong. Keep working. Maybe you'll get to a point where the same coach in the same school you dreamed of going to but ignored you circle back to you and say, man, we'd love to have you now.
Yep.
How is that not great? I love this story. He seems like a real player, somebody who can be helpful. I don't think it's a coincidence that he happens to have Memphis ties. I don't know what they had to do in NIL exactly to get this done. But, you know, if you're Julius Thedford and, you know, an SEC or ACC program is offering however much money, you might take a little less to come home and be a Tiger because it really does mean something to you. So Memphis might have been able to get this at a slight little hometown discount. And the truth is they might have to operate that way for a couple of reasons. One, they don't have the same type of money that Big Ten and SEC schools have. Two, the price of everything is through the roof now. What used to cost $50,000 now costs $130 in terms of players. And they might have to spend $3 million to keep their best player.
Right.
So if you can get somebody on possibly a hometown discount who really wants to be here, you should.
I agree.
And they did. Again, he averaged 12.4 points per game last season in 18 appearances and shot it decently from three and is physically established enough to be a plus on the defensive end of the court, too. That's the scouting report on him, at least. And so this is a good development. Still got a ways to go in terms of roster building, but Memphis added a player that seems like he'll matter yesterday.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.